Hey guys, wasn't going to make a video on this, but I figured, yeah, why not? There's not enough Volkswagen Passat videos online for what we're doing. Okay, so customer has been having problems with her power steering system. She's been having to add fluid to it. So I diagnosed it briefly one night and determined she's got a bad hose. So this is a 2.5 Passat. This is the 5-cylinder engine. And the power steering system has 3 lines. It's got a line that goes, I'll show you each line here. Okay, so we got a line down here, it goes from there over to the reservoir. And then this line here is your pressure line, that goes down to the rack. And this one here is your return line to the rack. So I guess you would call this your supply line. So I got underneath it, took the skid plate off, diagnosed the leak as being from this hose here. So let's change it out and get her back on the road again. So I don't know what you can be able to see here, but we're going to try to do our best. Alright, so first step is we got the engine cover off so that we could be able to run this hose around. You do have an upper radiator hose right here. So you're going to have to just work your way around it. But this is like a super easy. I don't even think it has any hold downs on the engine. It's got one hold down right here in the middle. I'll show you where the hold down is. So we got a hold down right here. I do believe that would be a Torx bit, because everything on this car seems to be Torx bit. So let's get you set up in a spot where you can see what we're doing. And let's see what we can do about getting this car running again. Alright, so I'm going to take my gloves off here so I can feel for what this is down here. Feels like a 10mm nut, but I'm not for sure. Alright, when in doubt, go get the mirror. So let's go get the mirror and I'll be right back. Alright, let's got our mirror right here. Let's see what that hold down looks like. Turn it up so we can see what we're looking at here. It is a nut. Looks like a 10mm. Is there one over here too? Yep, there's a 10mm on this side too. So let's grab a 10mm and see if we can get those off without losing the nuts. Good news is we've got a rubber mat down on the ground today, so if they do fall, we'll be able to find them. So let's get these 2 nuts off of here real quick so we can get this removed from the car. Let me get my pliers. I had a pair of channel locks out here somewhere. Yep, they're over here. So far, so good. Looks like it's going to be fairly easy. Now, I'm going to caution you on the pressure line. I don't think I'm going to have to change it in this video. So, if you do have to change it, you're going to have to be able to get back there with one of them line wrenches, and you're going to have a long one because there is no room back there to get to it. And knowing fasteners, if they've never been messed with, they're probably going to be like really tight. So you want to make sure that you can get to the fastener or to the fitting. And so we'll pull our clamp back, wiggle this down a little bit, get it on the bend here. Alright, and then we can come up here, do the same thing, add a camera. I don't think you can see where I'm at. There you are, right there. Like where that. You gotta get this clamp loose right here. Now I've gone ahead and put drain pans underneath it, and I've gone and siphoned out what power steering fluid was left in the reservoir. Now this is a plastic reservoir, so be careful not to break it when you break the line loose, because otherwise you're replacing this reservoir, and that is not meant for a good day. So I take my pliers and I clamp them like that, and then I just kind of rock it back and forth. And then I'll take my trim tool like this, and I'll scoot it in here, and I'll pry this back like this, get it off the nipple. You can get it to a certain point. You can probably get it on this piece right here and just kind of pry it back like that. And that is why we have the drain pan underneath the car. Catch that. And we draw your attention to the pump side. Since we got that done, we're over here on the pump. So let me zoom you in a little bit more so you can see what we're doing. Alright, so we are on that curved line right there. So let's go ahead and get that line loose. This one you can be a little bit more aggressive with because it's metal, but you just still want to just grab it, rock it back and forth. And then we can take our trim tool, grab it from the back, and just kind of pry it off. And there it is. There's your return line. Now, you just got to grab it, slide it out from underneath the radiator hose, pick it up, and then take it over and set it in the drain pan. Alright, so let me show you where the leak was. Since we got the line off, we can show you where the leak was. And it's quite common on Volkswagens, my understanding. I don't work on them enough to be a professional at it, but I hear stuff. Alright, so this is your basic hydraulic line. You can see we have some cracks right there in the line. That's not where the leak was though. Sometimes on these lines it'll leak from the metal part, but on this one, that fitting gave out. That's where the leak came from, that fitting right there. So I was gonna replace all 3 lines on this car, but after seeing where the return line goes and the pressure line goes and how hard it is to get to that rack, I'm gonna forego the other 2 lines and just change this one. But if you wanted to change the return line, you would take it loose from there, and then I can show you where it is underneath, because we got the skid plate off. So let's get you off the pod, and I'll get underneath the car and I'll show you where the rack is, and you can see where the lines go. Maybe if I don't get gripped on. Alright, so your steering rack is way back in here, and that's your rack right there. If you look up over here on the side, and let me see if I can get you in there where you can see a little bit better. And somewhere up in here you got 2 lines. As you can see, our rack is dry, so I don't have to worry about taking any lines off the rack. Yeah, there they are right there. That's your pressure line and your return line right there. So if you had to change those out, that's where you would go. And they are really difficult to get to. I don't know how they expect you to do that, but our leak, as you can see, was on the front of the engine because all my connectors are wet. So all of our leaks were from the front. We don't have any on the back. This fitting here, I cleaned it off and it doesn't seem to be leaking back. So I think maybe that was just a drip off the top because of how things travel. By the way, there's your oil filters right there. So you have to take the skid plate off. Skid plate's right there to do all of this. So I'll go get a new line, and we'll get a new line put on here, and we'll pressure it up and see if we have any other issues. If we don't, we'll put it back together and send it back to the customer. So I'll be back in a minute. All right, we're back with our hose. That's the part number for this hose. Keep in mind it does not come with replacement clamps. So we're gonna have to take the ones off our old hose and use them again. And this is the fluid this takes. Change out our hose clamps. So the way I do hose clamps is real simple. I figure out which one goes on which hose, and I just put it on there. See, we have a new attachments here. Really nice, really nice. So I match my lines up here like that. So this clamp goes on that end. So we got to take squeeze our clamp, work it off our hose. If you want to use vice grips for this job like I usually do, that would be preferable. Make sure you have a good pair of gloves too, because you don't want to get this stuff on you. You got to be careful with these clamps too, because they're super spring loaded and they will pop off. And we're going to put it right there on that bend. And then when I go to put it on, since it's a new hose, we'll be able to manipulate it to whatever we want it to look like. So we got to get this one off now. Now if these clamps had been damaged, then we'd have another issue, because normally when you buy a new line or a hose or something for power steering, you get replacement hose clamps. We didn't get replacement hose clamps. So, all right, now we're ready to go put our new hose on. So let me get you. All right, so this is how your new hose goes on. We got to feed it under that lower radiator hose. So let's see. I think it goes this way. I'm going to turn it upward, that way it's easier to fish through under here. And then you can make sure it's right, because everything will line up. See? If it was wrong, it wouldn't line up. So, let's see, where are you facing? Let's go ahead and put the end of the hose on this end. We won't put the clamps on until we're all done. Alright, after messing with it a minute, I finally got one of them on. I got my nut right here on my magnet. That way I don't lose it. I'm going to try to get my nut started. I'm going to put it on sideways here. Let's see. We're going to have to hold it clamped down with our pliers here, because it wants to pop back off. There's not really a whole lot of room in here, so you got to do this gently, carefully. As long as you get some thread started, that's all that matters. I don't think I got any thread started on that. No, I didn't. Let me see if I can grab it from above here and hold it. Because the problem I'm having is I'm trying to get my nut started and I can't get it started because this clamp wants to push back out. I think I got some thread started. Let me see if I can push this back some more. I think that's it right there. Yeah, I got it. Make sure that's right. It looks like I got some thread started, but I don't know yet. I'm gonna put a socket on it and see what happens. See if I can get it with the ratchet real quick. I got it from the top last time. Got it. Got that one. Now I gotta get the other one. Electric tools for the win. Now we gotta pick the hose up and we gotta get the other one started. We're gonna have to do the same thing over again. Get the back on and then use your needle nose. And try to push the front back on. This one I don't know if we're gonna be able to do the needle nose because this one wants to be a freaking terror. I'm gonna loosen this one up just a little bit so I can allow this thing to roll a little bit. Yeah. Loosen it up a little bit so I can move my hose around. I gotta get that piece to go back on. And this is a real pain in the butt too. Alright, let me see here. Got our clamps connected. You gotta be creative with this thing. I got a whole bunch of different ideas out and tried them all out. And you just gotta mess with it a minute. They'll go back on. You want to leave them loose though when you do that so that you can be able to get your stuff together here. See where we're at here? We got to loosen them back up a little bit so this pipe will slide. So don't tighten them up right away. You're going to have to loosen them up so the pipe will slide because you got to put your hoses on. But don't loosen them up too much because your nut will fall off and then you're back to fighting this thing again. I spent about 40 minutes messing with this pipe right here. So we gotta slide our hose back and forth on here so that we can get our clamp or our hose back on the end here. Should have just left it on there, but what do I know? Pull our hose back here. We gotta loosen our clamps up some more because they're rubber infused clamps, so you're gonna mess with it a minute. So now we gotta fight to get our hose back on. The problem with imports are these aftermarket hoses. They're a pain in the butt. Let me see if I can shove this back some more. I don't want to take the clamps loose all the way. Especially because they're a real pain to get on there. And let's loosen that one up. We don't want to take the nut off, we just want to loosen it up to where this hose will roll. Definitely don't want to take these off. This was a pain in the butt. Alright, grab your hose from the back and just kind of pull back on it. Kind of get it to move a little bit. Like that. Might be able to get the hose back on. Let me see what we can do here. Let me get my gloves on so I can work. see if we can make this happen, folks. So, all right, let's see if we can get this hose back on. Might have to do it the old school way where you do this way. Take your Phillips screwdriver and you put it in the end of the hose, and then you can manipulate it where you got to go with it. Push it down like this. And you can get it down on the line right there, and it'll come right on. See that? That's what you want to do. Shove it down on there like that. Make sure the bottom's on. Once the bottom gets on, it'll slide right over that fitting right there. Sometimes you gotta grab a pick and run a pick down along the bottom of it like this. I'll show you this trick too. Take your pick and you put it inside your hose right here, and then you roll it around the bottom. And as you do that, it's gonna attach itself to the bottom of the hose. And if you do it right, your hose will start to slide. Take it around the other side too. And around the other side. And then you can get your hose go on. It wants to fight me on the bottom. Okay. Alright. This is one of those hoses you got to start from the bottom and work your way up. So that means we got to shove it back down. And then we got to kick it to the bottom just a little bit to where it'll roll forward. Now here's the other part we're going to have to do now because of this hose being a pain. Because I don't want to get my hands all ripped up, I got to take this hose clamp off. We're going to let it hang loose over on the pump side. I'm hoping that this hose doesn't crimp. If it does, we're going to have to cut it and make it fit. And then take your clamp, let it hang loose on that side. That way you're not digging your hand up when you're trying to get this hose back on. So see, now you can get your hand in there and get this hose back on. There we go. Look at that. Got the hose on. Now I got to get it shoved all the way on. This is the other reason why you got to have that to move, because now you got to pull your line back over. So we'll take our trim tool and we'll set it down there like that, and we'll kind of use it as a holder, and we'll pull our hose back across like this, like that. That should get us enough room to get this hose on all the way, because you want it all the way on, all the way up to the stop, just like that. Look at that. Hose is on. Now we got to get our clamp back on. So we'll flip our clamp around, we'll hook our pliers to it, clamp that all the way open, and there's our clamp back on. Let's see if the other side's going to be easier than that, because that was a real big pain in the you-know-what. Okay, so we need to turn you because you can't see past the foot of my tripod here. See, now you can see our hose is down here. So let's see if we can get our hose reattached to our reservoir without any kind of issue. This one goes on pretty easy because, well, it's already been greased up, so it should slide right back on. You want to There we go. All right, now we can put our clamp back on and fill the system, and we'll know right away if we have any other leaks. So before we do that, because we know we've had leaks in the system, we're going to put our cap back on. We're going to spray that down with some brake clean. You want to put the cap on so that you don't put any brake clean down in that reservoir, because whatever's in that reservoir is going to go through the system, and you don't want that in your system. It'll do some damage. All right, let's spray it down. All right, and then I'll get under the car and I'll do the same thing under the car. There we go. And then we'll grab a rag and wipe it all down. That way we got nice, clean, dry surfaces before we put our fluid in. Grab our shop rags right here and we'll clean up our reservoir. Make sure all of our lines are dry. That way we don't have any issues with tracking down any other leaks. Because if the bottom of the reservoir leaks, we want to know. Because if the bottom of the reservoir leaks, we got to get another reservoir. The pump don't leak because the lines are dry. And we have all of our leak in this general area right over here. See, all of our leaks in this area right in here. So this is where we're focusing our energies. We got to get under here now. We got to wipe off all of our surfaces here. Our transmission's got to be cleaned off. Our hoses have got to be cleaned off. Our sensors. Anything that's going to be an indicator of a leak, we need to clean it. Because when we put the fluid in, we're going to start the car up and let it run a minute. And if we have a leak anywhere other than that line we just changed, we need to find it so we can get it done. Because after we get all of our leaks fixed, we got to put the skid plate back on. Alright, so next part is we're going to fill our reservoir up with our Lubriguard. You want to fill it to that line right there where it says max. You want to set it no higher than that. Then I'll start the car and let it run a minute. I'm not going to turn the wheels because it's on ramps. I'm going to see if it still bubbles. It's going to have some bubbling to it, but I want to make sure that all the air bubbles are out. And then make sure it stops the whine. And then I'll get it off the ramps after I put the skid plate back on it, and I'll do the tires. I'll rotate it back and forth. That's how you bleed it. You just turn it lock to lock, like we have on all of our other power steering videos. So, and then after that's done, we'll put the cover back on it. So I'll be back in a little bit and we'll wrap this up. All right, so be mindful after you start the car up and you fill your reservoir, it might suck it all down. So be prepared to put more fluid in it. So that happened to me. It sucked it all down. So didn't even have to turn the wheels. There's no bubbles, no air. I checked under the car, no leaks. I think we're done here. So, because you didn't see me take this off, I'm going to show you how this comes off. I'm going to take our cap off. I do that just for the sake of doing it. So, this is held on by rubber grommets, but you got to do some stuff to get to that point. So, first thing you're going to do is you're going to get your tube here plugged back in. Because this tube is your air tube for your engine. Then you want to make sure you line up all your rubber grommet bits. Okay, let me see if I can find the other rubber grommet bit. Usually if you get two of them lined up, the other ones will fall in line. And then you got to hook up your air tube here for your air line that goes like this. Get you down here so you can see what we're doing. Put our oil cap back on. And we got to clamp that back up. So we'll grab our pliers. So we'll hook onto these with our channel locks. Yeah, if you feel better by putting this clamp up on the top here to where it doesn't crush your tube, you're more than welcome to do that. But your clamp goes right here on this space right there. And as far as that goes, that'll one day, I don't know if we can clear that up with a pair of needle nose or not, but there is a way I'm sure of. You can pump that back out. Let me see if we can do it with this. Get down in here like this and just kind of grab a hold of it and pull back. This is kind of like a rubber plastic. So I think if we can get down in here like this, just kind of pull on it like that. And there it is. Piece of cake. All right, this here, there's two T10s that hold that on. There's one on each side. There was a guy that did a video on this that said they were T20s. They're not T20s, they're T10s. It's just nobody uses them. I keep this bit in my box because being a Ford technician, a lot of your hardware on a Ford is this size. And some GMs are like that too. Now we can add Volkswagen to the list. I almost said Chrysler. Freudian slip maybe? Who knows? Alright, so that's all done. Now we're going to move you a little bit off to the side here so we can access our fluid reservoir here, and we're going to open it up. By the way, this is for a flat blade screwdriver, if it doesn't come off easy like mine does. Alright, so we're going to leave it up that high. I don't know if you see how high it is. It's too high, but I'm doing that on purpose because after I get it on the ground, I got to turn the wheel, lock the lock, make sure that everything's good to go. We need to make sure those bolts are tight before we go any further. I don't need those nuts falling off. So let's make sure that our attaching hardware is tight. I just remembered that from when we had to take it loose to move our hose. See if I can get down in here real quick. Nope, see, they were loose still. Get you over here so you can see what I'm doing. We gotta tighten these up real quick. I don't need these nuts falling off in the middle of driving somewhere. And then she calls me and says, there's a rattle coming from under my hood. Because we didn't tighten these attachment hardware up. There we go. Alright, that's good, that's good, that's good. Over there's good. And we might have... And we'll wipe off that clamp down here because we got a little bit of schmutz on our clamp down there. We got to wipe that off. So we'll get that cleaned off real quick. And clean off our top here. Alright, so the next part you really don't need to see. I'm just going to put the skid plate back on and get it off the ramps, and then I'm going to turn it lock to lock. I will bring you back though because we do have to put the scan tool on it, so we're going to see what the scan tool has to say. We'll do that in a minute, so I'll be right back. Alright, got our scan tool hooked up. It's down there. I don't know why I didn't see it before. Alright, so let's see. We've got no emissions codes. So let's get our scan tool. You guys can see it here. Alright, we finally got our scan tool to go 20 minutes later. Let's go through our modules here. Okay, we got one in climatronic. We're not too worried about that. Electrical system, we're going to look into that one. Make sure we don't have anything in there we need to clear. Mobilizer. Door control module. Alright, so let's look in our climatronic real quick. Temperature flap motor actuator jammed. It's a pending confirmed. Might be needing a blend door actuator here shortly. Alright, let's go back. Let's go back here. Vehicle electrical system control module. Let's look. Daytime running light bulb open circuit, short circuit to be positive. That's a bulb out. Well, actually it's showing an intermittent, so I wonder if maybe we can clear those codes and see if they come back. That could be what the inspection message was. I'm not real sure. Didn't come back, so I guess we're okay. So everything else looks good, so we're done here. So if this helped you in any way, go ahead and comment down below. And happy holidays, and we'll see you on the next one.